Some 100 meters away from here, in the Utrecht town hall in 1713, the Treaty of Utrecht has been concluded to make an end to the War of Spanish Succession, an historical fact of which not many people here and in the Netherlands were aware. And until recently, because since the city, the province and the University of Utrecht decided to join forces to make 2013 a Treaty of Utrecht year, things have changed. Now, 300 years later, we pay extensively attention to the treaty, with celebrations because of the fact that it brought a long-lasting peace to Europe, but also with a more serious program for the other side of the treaty, one that had always been underexposed and insufficiently examined, the colonial legacy, including the asiento, the right to trade slaves to the Spanish colonies, that in 1713 was transferred to Great Britain. This conference is one of the activities in the 2030 program that wants to put the spotlight on that other side of the treaty. And in the conference papers you find another one, quite a good and spectacular exposition in the Aboriginal Art Museum here 100 yards away. Well, you shouldn't, but I advise you strongly to visit that exhibition. But it brings us also to the question, what do we actually celebrate and commemorate this year when we talk about the treaty? Please allow me a very brief excursion into history. After all, besides a manager of an organization, I'm also an historian. Last summer I was in Piedmont in North Italy, and there the Trattato di Utrecht is yearly celebrated extensively. Because in 1713 the Duchy of Savoy became the Kingdom of Piedmont, with Turin as the capital as a reward for good services to the Allies. So they celebrate the victory. They won't do that in Catalonia in Spain, because during the Spanish succession, Catalonia had chosen the side of the Habsburgs against the French and the Spanish crown. And the Tratado de Utrecht is for them a signal and a symbol of the lost fight for independence. Neither will Spain as a whole celebrate this treaty because of the continuing dispute about Gibraltar, which was in 1713 assigned to the British. When the King of Spain was here a couple of years ago, all the civil servants and all the guests were said, don't mention the treaty. In the region around Lille and Flanders in North France, in this year, many activities are organized because the current border had been drawn then, and Lille became definitely French. There's an extensive program this year on both sides on that border, thematizing the border concept that brought stability for 300 years, not peace, of course. And a similar program is organized around the French-Italian border. In 1713, the limits in Canada are otherwise drawn between the English and the French-speaking areas, with massive deportations and migrations as a result. Cajun people were forced to travel south. I could continue mentioning more examples, because in many places the Treaty of Utrecht has impact. But don't be afraid, I won't. Only one, in Great Britain, of course. 11 April 1713 is remembered as one of those 50 days that changed the world. This historical date can be found in the book with the same title of the historian Hywel Williams. And for instance, the day that Julius Caesar was murdered is another date of those 50, and also 11 September 2001. For the British, of course, 11 April 1713 represents the moment that the British Empire could be established on the acquired trade and territorial corrections defined by the treaty, including in particular the asiento. No party does for the population in large part of the world, so much for the British rulers. So again, what do we celebrate? What do we commemorate? here in the Netherlands and in Utrecht and elsewhere. These celebrations are not because of the fact that the Dutch Republic gained a lot in the negotiations, because that wasn't just the case. We hardly gained anything. The Dutch Republic was relatively insignificant in those days. Chez vous, de vous, sans vous, said the French diplomat Melchior de Polignac, and the treaty is often represented as the last phase of our golden age. No, we celebrate and we commemorate something else. And the special nature of the Treaty of Utrecht just asks for it. After all, making peace by intensive diplomacy after 2 centuries of war, by choosing to dialogue with the opponent, by choosing for the conversation with the other, as visiting Professor Frans Timmermans last year, he's now the Minister of State, put it in his inaugural lecture. The Center of the Humanities of Utrecht University, under the guidance of the one and only Professor Rosie Braidotti, formulated for us the Utrecht Principles as the basis for our program. Values rooted in history, but still very topical and actual. We celebrate this year the power of diversity, the power of art and culture, and the power of sharing knowledge for making new connections, for sustainability and innovation. We celebrate thus the art of making peace, as our program is called. We celebrate the art to connect. And thus we connect art and culture to community organizations and businesses. We work in the schools and in the districts with numerous cultural and other partners. This weekend alone, with the Peace in the Neighborhood program, a festival with over 150 partners and more than 70 projects. So it is with, it is by, and it is for the people of Utrecht. Our program offers big and small art and culture, high and low, in the old center and in the neighborhoods, in the city and in the province. A variety of theater, dance, music of high standing. We work with all Utrecht museums and festivals in the entire region. And that itself is very special. And it's all about the art of making peace on conditions for a peaceful and resilient city. With Utrecht University, the University for Applied Sciences, and the Utrecht School of the Arts, we probably have our biggest cooperation partner. For many projects in education, till the endowed chair I already mentioned, resulting up into 5 conferences a year, including this one. As I said already, I am proud that this conference is organized in the context of the Treaty of Utrecht program by our highly valued cooperation partner, Center for the Humanities, Professor Braidotti and her team, and by Dr. Esther Captain. As said, it is very important that the colonial and post-colonial legacy of the treaty is truly examined. And this will not be limited to a historical study only, but it will also have an actual value for today. I thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a fruitful conference.